Okay, we're recording. Okay, guys, welcome to class here. If you can and you're available to, if you would jump on the Nearpod, follow along with me. It'll be good to get we have some collaborative things that we're going to kind of do on the Nearpod as we're going through this. But this is our first class. This is Introduction to Criminal Justice. And this is like a 2-part series, okay? So we're going to have Introduction to Criminal Justice, this block, which you get half a credit for, which is nice, right? And then next block, we're going to have corrections. So we're going to go take a deep dive into the correction facilities like prisons, how that kind of system all works, okay? So it is a 2-part thing. Your dad's in corrections. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting field there, but I got a lot of friends that are in it, and so it's good. Okay, today what we're going to do, we're going to go over basically kind of like the history of law enforcement. And just remember this lesson is being recorded for learning purposes. So I will be posting this to the course announcement so you can have that available to you. As we're going through the class, just my expectations, make sure you're following along with the Nearpod lesson. You use the chat tool respectfully and appropriately, and then also you respond to questions, instruction the first time so we can just get moving through it because there's quite a bit of material. This is me. Everybody's grown up from here, but my name is Mr. Hancock. The link brings you to a blank page. So let me try that again. Try that link, see if it's better for you. All right, so this is me, my wife, Christy. We have 3 kids, Brooklyn, Kaysen, and Kaylor. They're fun. We just do a bunch of activities and fun stuff out there. So that's a little bit about me. Before we get into the lesson objective, I want to go over the course real quick. So once you log in, I am going to... Yeah, sorry that's turned up as a blank page. It looks like other people are in, so you just may have to just follow along on the lesson. So sorry about that, Tyrell. I always post the lessons on the announcement page or the recorded videos, so that's where you can find those. If you go into plan, this will tell you when things are going to be, okay? So we have live classes every Thursday, and then I make assignments at these classes, and they're due a week from now. Okay, so we got a quiz and then also Unit 1 reflection. And I'll go over the reflection of how that looks in a little bit. If I can't have a live class, I'll put on here that we're going to do like a recording, and I'll just throw that out there. The block ends on the 18th for first block, and so you do have a little bit of time to get caught up. But I wouldn't get too far behind. I would just try to stay up with the current pace of what it is. So if you go into content now, which is over here, you're going to see this here. So I have a Nearpod link you can jump on. This one is an asynchronous one, so you can just go through it at your own pace. I also have materials on here that you can look into that will we'll talk more about everything that's going on. And then we'll have the quiz, which is from today's lesson. And then if you're watching this on a recording, you probably got to watch the lesson before you take the quiz. And then also Unit 1 reflection. So this reflection, let me just talk about this real quick. This reflection, what you're going to do is write on a paper or whatever, a reflection of 100 words or more. That's just what you learned in this lesson. So it's kind of like just a quick paragraph of what you learned, and you get points for that. So that's the course right there. But what we're going to be doing today is the lesson objectives today is given a quiz in the OLS, students will accurately answer multiple choice questions about the role of history of law enforcement throughout time with 80% accuracy across one trial. Okay, So here are some activities in the law enforcement community. You have like patrol, traffic enforcement, K9, SWAT, gang unit, undercover, crime prevention, corrections, dispatch, school resource, detectives, forensic. And honestly, the list keeps going on and on. There's a lot of different law enforcement agencies out there. And to be familiar with them would be good. Hollywood's really kind of glamorized a lot of how police officers are. One that I don't have on here is my wife and I, we like to watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So that's another one about police officers, and they kind of make it good. They have crime scene investigators. They try to make things a lot cooler, but you know, it is, yep, Criminal Minds is good. Somebody said on the chat, but it is really an important job. And it also can be very stressful too. So there's a lot of aspects of it that they don't show. Hollywood glamorizes all of it. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to watch this. This is a little bit about policing history. So I'll mute my thing so it doesn't have an echo here.
All right, we've been seeing images of police officers from all over the country for 9 days now responding to these demonstrations and these protests nationwide. But did you know there was a time when we as a country, America, did not have an organized police force anywhere in the entire country? So let's go beyond the headline this morning and take a look at the history of the police force in America.
The law enforcement system we have today wasn't shaped until the mid-1950s. Back in colonial times, there were no police officers. Communities would simply hire someone to act as night watch. It wasn't very effective. Most of the time, the watchman would sleep through his shift or get drunk. The first time we saw an organized law enforcement system was just before the Civil War. Cities set up what they called a slave patrol, a group to prevent slave revolts and hunt down runaway slaves. After the war, these groups switched more to enforcing segregation. And as time went on, police forces focused mostly on protecting businesses in big cities from union organizers and crime rings. The problem? Police forces were controlled by local politicians. In 1929, President Hoover created the Wickersham Commission to look at how effective law enforcement was nationwide. The results of that commission led to the creation of independent police precincts that were separate from political parties and are more similar to what we have today.
All right, over the last year, CBS News has surveyed more than 150 police departments across the country. At least 69% of departments that were surveyed said they do have racial bias training, including the Minneapolis Police Department. They said they've been.
As you can tell, police have been in the news recently for good and bad. But that was kind of a brief overview of the history of kind of where that is. So I'm going to ask everybody a question real quick. I'm going to ask you, and if you just put on here, you can put it in the chat if you're not there, is what interaction have you had with law enforcement before? So what's kind of the interaction you've had? Was it good? Was it bad? You have, some people have not had any. What kind of interaction? You know, and some people have interaction with law enforcement is, you know, they're came to their house to help them out or something like that. Okay. I've been in a car while, okay, so they got pulled over. And then you can remember you got a fine. I've had bad and good. Okay. I think that's all of us. I've had some tickets along my way, right? But I've had some experiences where they've really helped out. Speeding ticket, car tickets. Good. They made me feel safe in very troubling time. Oh, good. Arresting and okay. Yep. I mean, those things happen, right? Several cases with people I know. Occasion. Car tickets. Been pulled over by someone. Okay. Good most of the time. Your sister had many problems. Okay. Called the cops because you're scared. Okay. Well, I mean, that's kind of what they're there for. If you're in a situation that is troublesome, definitely that's what they're there for. Bad when I was going through. Okay. All right. My dad's a police officer. I got with the law. Okay. Coming to my house from my brother. Okay. Pulled over by someone. Okay. Car crash. Yeah. I've been where the police officer showed up to a car crash that I was in, and sure grateful for him. Right. It has to be a tough job. They see a lot of things that aren't very pleasant to see, or things that you have to deal with. So, okay. But we all kind of have there. So what we got to do is looking at the police atmosphere, law enforcement today. We have to really think about, it's almost like a philosophy. You said before, not until the 50s did the police force like we know it came about. Before, it was more maybe politically based, or just a group of people that got together for a cause, which can be good or bad, but now it's kind of regulated a little bit better. So we got to define like justice. Okay. So we're going to talk in this class a little bit about what's right and fair. And really everybody has their own perception of what that is. Standard of fairness, where is it judged, whether each person is rewarded what he or she is due. And then also who determines what's right and fair. I mean, there's a lot of philosophical things when it comes to this. So which comes first, laws or morality? Okay, as people grow, they develop feelings that certain actions are right or wrong. These feelings are created by parents, school, religion, country, friends, and others. These ideas about duties and ethics we will refer to as morality, although many may refer to it as like feelings of consciousness or conscience. So hopefully everybody believes, I mean, there's certain things like if somebody were to kill somebody for not like self-defense or something like that, I hope we all think that's wrong, right? So there is a distinction there. Now, how far do we go over it? And with that's up kind of for debate a little bit. When enough people with political power within a government agree that an action should be labeled right or wrong, and that everyone should be made to follow their decision, a law then is created. Yeah, somebody put in the chat, not everything is black and white. That is completely correct. It's so hard to be able to judge kind of some of these things. So I'm going to ask you right now, we have all of these laws that are always created by different people, right? Representatives that we usually elect. We may not always agree with them. That's fine. But is it feasible to enforce all the laws that are created by the government? Okay. Somebody put no. Okay. Some people in the chat are putting no. Okay. Sometimes, but it becomes overwhelming. Yep. And what do you enforce and what don't you? Somebody said, unfortunately, there's not. There are many other problems going on as well. Yeah. So people are like, should more laws be created on top of the ones we already have, right? Okay, you don't have enough manpower. Okay. In a situation, if a child steals candy, it should be same as adult robbing grocery store. Yeah, right. I mean, where do you come on that? That's an interesting thing to think about. And we'll be talking about some of those situations in here. Under certain circumstances, yeah. Okay. So it says communism does, okay? Yeah, so I think it's really hard, like, as a police officer, where are you going to spend your time, right? Are you going to spend it all on one thing, or it's really kind of what they direct you to do, right? What your leaders, the police force, which is what are they directing you to enforce? Okay, so why are they not enforced? We talked about it a little bit. Lack of public consent on the law, widespread violations, okay, limited manpower, low priorities. here's some laws that are not widely enforced. Okay, polygamy, jaywalking, curfew, some traffic laws, speeding, improper lane turns, vehicle conditions, truancy. Okay, you know that you guys could be picked up for truancy if you don't go to school. They could have a police officer come and enforcement actually goes on your parents, but they usually don't enforce that. Okay. So something that's not really enforced very well. I probably shouldn't tell you guys that. So stay in school though. All right, let's have you answer this question real quick. Okay. Who gets to decide whether or not to enforce the law? Would it be the judges, the prosecutor, or the police? You always wonder if that actually happened. Okay. Nope, that's why they don't do it, James. They're not going to pull you out of bed, right? Okay. All right. Let's see what people are putting over here. Okay. Oh, 48% of you have it incorrect. Okay, let's look at this. Gets to decide whether they're okay. Do the judges, the prosecutor, police? What do you guys think? You want to put it in the chat? What do you think it is? Okay, we're all over the place. Okay, it's actually the police. Okay, the police are the ones that are able that show whether to enforce or not, because the police ones are out there doing it. Okay, so you see the police officers on the side of the road. You know, they may not enforce somebody speeding, but they may enforce something else, right? And it all goes down to that kind of thing. So let's go a little bit more into the history of law as we can. The first kind of laws or codes that was put out there was called Hammurabi's Code. This was in 2000 BC in Babylon, and they actually had written down laws that they started to follow. Police really kind of started getting a thing. It comes from the Greek word police, which means city or state. And so they created little army kind of things in their cities to help enforce these laws and kind of protect them. Okay, here's some other history. The Assyrian Empire, they started a court system. The Egyptians had marine or customs police. In 400 BC, the Persian Empire, they had police to protect the roads and postal system. Okay, the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was the first non-military police force established in the city. They were known as vigils. They carried around wooden clubs and short swords. As we're starting to get more into what we see police do as well, in England, they started many traditions. They had the watch and ward system, the law enforcement by citizens. Sir Robert Peel kind of started this, and they started the Magna Carta, which actually gave some of the power to the people, and then the people were able to go and start enforcing things of how they were. In 1215, the Magna Carta was signed, reducing the king's power. Law enforcement again began in community base, and they had like kind of a watch system. Does anybody have a community watch that was in their area? In one of my neighborhoods, there was some, so neighborhood watch. So I had, in one of my areas, somebody was going around stealing things out of people's garages at night. And so they actually set up a little city watch in our little community. And people would just, every night would be on shifts by 2, and we'd kind of go around and just kind of patrol the area every once in a while. Every month I was assigned like one night. So it's kind of interesting. And then we'd kind of talk with the police as well, just to make sure everything was all good there. So kind of interesting. That stuff still goes on. The patrol function within a community, like I was kind of talking about, any male between 15 and 60 were supposed to do it. They had a night patrol, and so the watch was the night patrol, the ward was the day patrol, and the shiver and shake, cold shake from fear. Okay, let's see here. You guys had some things. You had SWAT in your backyard before. Okay, that's an interesting experience for sure. Because someone broke out of jail. All right, yeah, just lock your doors, right? Lock your doors. All right, so as we're going back to America now, so one thing that I guess America is a little bit known for is that citizens distrust central authority, okay? And so we actually get to elect a law enforcement officials. So I actually live in Weber County, and we actually get to elect the Weber County Sheriff. It's on the ballot, and so we get to kind of do that. So being able to not have people just kind of appointed, we get to hold them under somewhat of a authority. So they started using kind of the watch and ward system in there, and basically they were more of like a military police rather than an actual police like you would see today. So here's some of the things like you'd kind of see if you've ever seen one of these shows, like Gangs of New York, something like that. It'll kind of talk about the policing system of how they had to start to formalize training, because there started to always be a lot of mobs and riots that would happen back in that time, and not having like a formal policing system, you had to have good citizens organized to be able to there. The first actual, I guess, agency, state agency, was actually the Texas Rangers in 1835. Now we got the Highway Patrol. In 1789, the U.S. Marshals was the first federal agency. So there's three basic functions of law enforcement. We have combating criminal violations, enforcing the law, and then also providing Melissa, I can't even say that word right now. It's just a long day. But anyway, some like jails, like corrections, what we talked about, running ambulances, firefighters, that kind of stuff. Okay. So as of January 1st, 2008, and this is talking about Utah now, they had approximately 4,700 police officers. Of all police officers nationally, 11.9% are female, so it's a very dominated male thing, but they're starting to become more and more females that are going into the field, which is great. I know my niece is actually going to be crime scene investigator, is what she wants to do and going into. All sheriff's department nationally, there's about 13.6 were female. Nationally, 2.5 officers per 1,000 citizens. And in Utah, we actually have a lower number of police officers compared to citizens that there are. Going over the Bill of Rights, because this is kind of what kind of leads to what we do. James Madison pushed the first congressional Congress to discuss what's called the Bill of Rights. They had 124 proposed amendments. Only 10 of them became the Bill of Rights. Okay. And the Bill of Rights, some ones that you'll have to look off when we go, that we're going to be going over and talking about specifically kind of this class is one, the First Amendment is basically having freedom of speech. You know, what is it good to have freedom of speech? Being able to print things, to be able to peacefully assemble. and not riot, right? But to assemble, to protest and petition government. The Second Amendment, this is a big one for a lot of people, is the right to be able to keep and bear arms, meaning guns. The next one is the Fourth Amendment that we'll talk about, and this protects people from things like unreasonable searches and seizure. Like you got to, they can't go up, a police officer can't go up to you and say, hey, I get to search you, okay? They have to have probable cause. They have to have other things on there before they can do that. And they have to have sometimes warrants to go into people's homes, okay? So there's a lot there on that end of things. The Fifth Amendment is that you can't be a witness against yourself, nor be deprived of like liberty, property without due process. So like going through a court system. And then you can't be tried more than once for the same crime, same exact crime. So if I stole a pair of pants, I couldn't be put in jail for that in one level and then put in again. The Sixth Amendment is the right to a speedy and public trial, and that you actually get counsel. So being able to have an attorney to help you out in the process. And finally, the Eighth Amendment, that you cannot have excessive bail. So that means to get out of prison, to put up things, nor have cruel or unusual punishment put upon you. Okay. So those are some things we're going to kind of go over in the class, but that takes us to the end of class today. Here's my contact information. Let me see what we have in the chat here, because you guys are chatting about a bunch of stuff and I wasn't able to keep up. Somebody said Utah isn't very open for female careers. Yeah, so I think we'd love to have more females in the field and continue to have that, because it's good to have both genders in each field there. So let's see here. Okay. All right. Okay, so any questions? Let me just go over again real quick what you got to do. So if you jump into here, today you're going to have the quiz, which I think it's only a 5 or 10 question quiz. I can't remember how much it is. But you'll have the quiz. You can do the quiz as many times as you want to get the score you want. And then also just a 100-question reflection. And that's just kind of what you learned about. That's all you got to put down. So, okay. Do you guys have any questions? I'll stick around for a bit. I'm going to stop the recording, but